Well, time to have a look at what's happening in the markets so far. Asian markets closed slightly higher, and this is on the back of the Hang Seng Index rebounding after slipping into a bear market last week. Tencent closing up nearly 2%. Mainland Chinese markets are in positive territory. Over in Europe, we're seeing the same, positive energy moving through those particular markets. Markets are moving slightly higher, of course, looking to rebound after, recording probably their worst week last week since February. Looking at the individual bourses, FTSE 100 up 0.4%, German DAX up nearly 0.25%, and the French CAC up nearly 0.8%. We are also seeing the same theme moving through the US futures markets as investors on that particular side focus on the Jackson Hole meetings that are taking place Thursday and Friday in the U.S. Just a little bit of a background on that Jackson Hole meeting. It's an annual symposium. It's been sponsored by the Fed Reserve of Kansas since the 1971, and since 1989 or 81 rather, it's been held in Jackson, Wyoming. And this is an annual economic symposium where they discuss various economic issues that affect various economies as well. So investors are looking forward to hearing some clues from Fed Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. Locally, we did have news that Woolworths South Africa's CEO will be stepping down. However, she has agreed to stay on the company board until 2024. But to talk to us about how some of these themes are playing out and also what to look out for this week, we are joined by Gary Booysen from Rand Swiss. Gary, thank you so much for your time. Always, when we start off the interview, we have a check-in on the JSE. How are we doing right now?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, a little bit of positivity creeping back into financial markets after a very difficult week last week, where we saw a lot of the big international indices sliding. We saw a much more positive Asia this morning, seeing a little bit of relief for those Chinese tech stocks, seeing Tencent finally managing to find its feet and move a little bit firmer. And that's of course, helping the local market as well. So at the moment, we've got the all-share index up 1.38%. The resources are also looking strong as we just get a little bit of abatement from the commodity slide we saw into the end of last week. They're up 1.7%. But of course, with the likes of Naspers and Process moving a little bit firmer as well, you've got the industrial index also up, about 1.3. And then financials and retailers also doing pretty well, because we've had a couple of news items there, so we're seeing a little bit of relief for the retail stocks.
Right, so I feel like the past couple of weeks, the theme has been stock exchanges, whether it was the JSE last week where trading was delayed till around 2 in the afternoon, or today with the FSCA announcing that ZARX license has been temporarily suspended. I suppose, given the conversation you and I had before we went on air, it's kind of reassuring in the sense that you have the FSCA who's actually doing their job, being rigorous and making sure that all those participating in the capital market space are ticking off the right boxes.
No, absolutely. I think, it's worth reminding viewers about this as well. So, South African financial markets, we have an incredibly good financial market regulations that really, really do focus on protecting the consumer of financial products in South Africa. So one of the rules is that any financial services provider or anyone that's regulated by the FSCA, so someone like ZARX, which is an exchange, it's one of the first exchanges, I think, after 58 years to be created, JSE having held the monopoly for a long time. But essentially, all of these regulated entities have to have certain provisions in place. In this case, they have to have a certain capital adequacy and liquidity requirements. If that company doesn't meet those, they can have their license suspended. And the license suspension really isn't the final word. Normally what happens with an FSCA, at least an FSCA investigation, is if a license is suspended, there's a certain period of time for the financial services provider or the exchange to rectify the situation. If that's not rectified, you then get full cancelling of the license. So at the moment, the FSCA had said this is it's a big event. Their goal is obviously to protect the issuers and to protect the people that that own stocks that are potentially trading only on ZARX. And they're doing this, it's a very serious measure that they're taking to suspend the license. So IX has now 3 months to rectify the situation. And if they can't, then they would look at obviously cancelling that exchange license.
Right, so on Friday we had a trading update from Mr. Price, and I'm curious, what's your feeling around clothing retailers right now?
So looking at it, Mr. Price has been a steady up channel over the last couple of months. It's been recovering very, very strongly from those pandemic lows. And I think if we get back to a more normal situation, a company like Mr. Price could do fairly well just with its fashion value orientation. If you actually look at it, the stock price obviously got marked down heavily on Friday, down about, it was over 6.5% at one point. Just because I think the market was a little bit surprised that the size of the stock write-downs they had to take. They had a little bit of a squeeze on their margins because they didn't quite manage to get the pricing through that I think everyone had hoped that they would. They took maybe a little bit more. There was a little bit more of a financial impact to the looting and the shutting of their stores in KZN, and that just spooked markets a little bit. But if you look at the stock price longer term, it's still trading in its up channel. It is recovering again today. So as I said, the retail sector up quite nicely today after Shoprite's trading statement. But Mr. Price up 1.5% and does seem to be recovering. Although it was a little bit of a surprise to markets just how difficult they found the last period.
Right, Gary, unfortunately, we have run out of time, but thank you so much for that analysis. That is Gary Booysen from Rand Swiss. And of course, a lot of the stuff we're going to be keeping an eye on Friday as it coincides with Fed Chair Jerome Powell's speech is, of course, we have U.S. core price index, that U.S. consumer numbers as well. Also, we have the personal income and spending figures coming out of the U.S. So all of that data coming out right on the day that Jerome Powell is delivering his speech in Jackson, Wyoming. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have more news for you.
A global health